today's topic, we'll be looking at rewriting equations for a given variable. So there are two types of equations we can rewrite. The first type is called a literal equation, and that is just an equation that has two or more variables in it. Then there are special types of literal equations that are referred to as formulas. These are equations that give a very specific rule for the relationship between two quantities. So like distance equals rate times time. That is an example of a formula that's also a literal equation, but each letter, the D, the R, the T, they all represent the relationship between how distance relates to your rate or speed and the amount of time that you're there. Or something else like area equals length times width, A equals LW. There's another example of a literal equation, but it also is a more specific one called a formula because each of those letters are showing you the relationship between those quantities. All right, so now let's dive in and we are just going to practice taking these literal equations and rewriting them. So first, lots of times literal equations in math class, and especially in Algebra 1, are going to have two variables, an x and a y. And you are going to be asked to solve for one of those. So we're going to solve for y on these. So if I'm being asked to solve for y, I always kind of highlight that term, the one I'm being asked to solve for, and I know I'm saving it for last. And when I go to move, so I'm going to do the subtraction property of equality, and I'm going to go ahead and move that on both sides. Now I've got 2y equals negative 5x plus 20. These will not be like terms. So then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say, okay, let's divide everything by 2. When I'm dividing by a number, something that I can divide by, I will divide everything by it. So final answer, y equals, you can just leave it as an improper fraction, negative 5 halves x plus 10. If you turn it into a mixed number or a decimal, I will take it, but really down the road, we want to leave it in improper fractions, so I'm just going to go ahead and do that right now. Okay, let's go look at the second one. So on this one, again, I'm solving for y, so I'm going to say, okay, that's what I'm saving. First thing I'm going to do is subtract that 2x on both sides. So now I've got negative 3y equals negative 2x plus 9. And if anyone's going to make a mistake, it's that they accidentally forget that that's a negative 3y. So now I need to divide everything by negative 3. So this, I end up getting y all by itself, which was my goal. A negative divided by a negative will turn into positive 2/3 x, and a positive divided by a negative will turn into minus 3 or negative 3. All right, now we're going to look at some specific formulas. So the first formula is one you'll see in your science class. It's all about how to go from degrees Celsius to degrees Fahrenheit. So again, I am going to highlight what I'm trying to isolate. And then the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, let's subtract the 32. And again, these are not like terms, so we're not really simplifying it on each side. We're just rewriting or organizing where everything is. Okay, next step, I'm going to multiply both sides by 5/9. So multiply by 5/9. This will all cancel out, and I'm left with c equals. And then I'm going to go ahead and leave the 5/9 on the outside and just do f minus 32, because this is a formula I'm going to want to actually use. And I think it would be easier to do the subtraction and then worry about the 5/9. All right, now I want to solve for L. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight the term that has the L in it. I need to first get rid of that x squared. So I'm going to subtract it on both sides. So now I have SA minus x squared equals 2XL. And remember, 2XL is just one big multiplication problem. So now I'm going to go ahead and divide by 2x. And this is where I don't know what divide by 2x is unless I know what x. So I can go ahead and just put one big fraction bar on this side and just put it all over 2x. I do not have to do that individual division like I had to do on examples 1 and 2. So the final new formula is just surface area minus x squared over 2x equals the slant height L. All right, the last two are we're back to some literal equations, except now these are what we're calling the level 2 because they're multi-stepped. The letter we're solving for is going to show up more than once. So then what do I do? So I'm going to kind of give you that strategy. So if I'm solving for z, I quickly realize I have 3 different terms that have z in them. So the first thing I have to do is I have to get all the terms with z to the same side. So I'm going to subtract that tz. So now I have negative cz plus 6z minus tz equals 83. And now I get to use that property I love, the distributive that I said was going to be everywhere. But instead of me going and distributing z to everyone, I'm going to collect out that z. So I'm going to take the z and I'm going to pull it to the front. So I'm taking it out of each term. That's going to leave me with a negative c, a positive 6, and a negative t equals 83. And then last step, to get z all by itself, I'm just going to divide by everything in the parentheses. Divide by everything in the parentheses. So final answer, z is this lovely fraction, 83 over negative c plus 6 minus t. All right, let's try one more. First thing I do is I notice that the y that I'm trying to isolate is in 2 different locations. But I also notice that one of those locations is on the numerator of a fraction. So right now it's locked in there until I get rid of the fraction. So to make the fraction go away, I need to multiply both sides by 5. Those are now going to cancel out. I'm left with xy plus 2 equals 20y. So then next, I need to subtract xy. Subtract xy. So that's going to leave me with 2 equals 20y minus xy. Again, I need to take the y out of each of the terms. So now it's out. That leaves me with 20 minus x. And then final step, I'm just going to divide by the parentheses. The 20 minus x, divide by the 20 minus x. So now I have 2 over 20 minus x equals y. And that's the end of today's lesson.